Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Rama.
Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Rama.
Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Rama.
Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Rama.
Jaya Jaya Rama Janaki 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 Rama.
Janaki Rama.
Janaki Rama.
Janaki Rama.
Janaki Rama.
सियावर रामचंद्र की
जय।
पवन सुध हनुमान की
जय।
बोलो भाई सब संदन की
जय।
सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। राम राम सीता राम राम
राम सीता राम।
राम राम सीता राम
राम राम सीता राम।
राम राम सीता राम
राम राम सीता राम।
पूर्ण काम परम धाम
पूर्ण काम परम धाम।
पूर्ण काम परम धाम
पूर्ण काम परम धाम।
राम राम सीता राम
राम राम सीता राम।
राम राम मधुर नाम
राम राम मधुर नाम।
राम राम मधुर नाम
राम राम मधुर नाम।
शंकर मन रमत राम
शंकर मन रमत राम।
शंकर मन रमत राम
शंकर मन रमत राम।
भक्तन के जीवन राम
भक्तन के जीवन राम।
भक्तन के जीवन राम
भक्तन के जीवन राम।
पूर्ण करत सबके काम
पूर्ण करत सबके काम।
पूर्ण करत सबके काम
पूर्ण करत सबके काम।
पूर्ण करत सबके काम
पूर्ण करत सबके काम।
राम राम सीता राम
राम राम सीता राम।
राम राम सीता राम। ये सियावर रामचंद्र की
जय।
Hari Om everyone. Can you all see me and hear me clearly? Good to see all of you. In spite of the summer heat, you're all here. Thank you for that. In another 23 days, we are going to have Pujya Swami Swarupananji, our Mukhya Swamiji. He'll be visiting here in Dallas, and we will be celebrating the Mahasamadhi camp. And this Mahasamadhi camp started from the year 1994 onwards. 1993, Puja Gurudev attained Mahasamadhi. And since then, this Mahasamadhi camp is being conducted in different Chinmaya mission locations. It is our honor that we'll be hosting this time, this year, and it is kind of a semi format because we are just getting out of the pandemic, and the pandemic has just tapered off very recently in the last 2-3 months. So we are opening it up partially for all the registered ones. You can attend in person and be blessed in the direct presence of Puja Swami Swarupananji and his lectures. You can also offer Bhiksha, you can also meet him, and we can get that organized. The second aspect of the camp is that there will be Puja Swami Tejomananji Guruji. He will be a part of it. Vedanta Ramanam, he will be speaking on it, and it will be a recorded version that will be aired from Bombay. Then there will be a camp structure. I think we have aced it right since the first time that we attempted at the international level of Balavihar camps. So from the kindergarten through 12th grade, then Chick and CSK, we'll be having a camp. It will be there for the adults also. So please register, and I'll ask Divya to post the link for registration. Can you do that, Ma? Thank you. With that having said, this month is also Guru Purnima. So the 13th, I think, is the Guru Purnima. I'm just checking, cross-checking. So yeah, 13th is the Guru Purnima. So we will have Guru Purnima celebrations. Though the Brahmacharins may not be there, but I think we will have some format. I'll have to speak with the secretary and president to see what format we can have this Guru Purnima celebrations. I think that is about it, about the announcement. The reason I give it right in the beginning is after the class I might forget. So let me finish it off right in the beginning. I'll keep repeating this. Please spread the word and let people register. Now we will start with the invocation and dive into the ātmabodha class. Hari will lead us with the ātmabodha invocation and today's shloka 49th, 50th, I think. So after that, Divya will take, then Hari will take, and then I will consolidate it. सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. Let me add you on, Hari, and then we can begin. please go ahead.
तपोभिक्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणामपेक्ष्योऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते जीवन्मुक्तस्तु तद्विद्वान्
जीवन्मुक्तस्तु तद्विद्वान्
पूर्वोपाधिगुणांस्त्यजेत्
पूर्वोपाधिगुणांस्त्यजेत्
सच्चिदानन्दरूपत्वात्
सच्चिदानन्दरूपत्वात्
भवेत् भ्रमरकीटवत्
भवेद्भ्रमरकीटवत्
तीर्त्वा मोहार्णवं हत्वा
तीर्त्वा मोहार्णवं हत्वा
रागद्वेषादिराक्षसान्
रागद्वेषादिराक्षसान्
योगी शान्तिसमायुक्तः
योगी शान्तिसमायुक्तः
आत्मारामो विराजते
आत्मारामो विराजते. धन्यवादः.
Hari Om.
We can
So
hear you.
okay. We'll start with verse 49. Tadvidvān. So usually that's simply translated as the one who has learned. And if you want to add more details, the one who has learned Upanishad. But not everyone who has gone through the Upanishads or Bhagavad Gita has become a man of realization. So what is the process that we're speaking about? This is not just simply someone who knows. So they have come to recognize that there is this plurality and that they're caught up in the dukkha and ups and downs of samsara. So then they come to the feet of the guru, and with the grace of the shastras and the teacher, they start to study well, and they come to a correct evaluation of the world around us and come to understand the very nature of that substratum, that reality, and knows where to look and how to reach that state. And then once they have come to that thorough understanding, they become established in that realized state. It is this entire process that you go from simply reading the shastras to abiding in that shastras. So that's why I guess it's in the next verse, sorry, that they also are called as yogis. So this is the application of oneself to the shastras that has been read. So once this is starting to really reach that pinnacle, we see that purva upādhiguṇāṃstyajet, that the nature of the upadis are automatically starting to be renounced. So here we're not saying that the upadis itself is being renounced, that you give up the body, you give up the mind, you give up the intellect, right? You're not physically doing that. They're saying gunan. So the qualities, the traits, the properties, the functions are tyajet. Now, again, is tyajet a physical letting go and I stop thinking, I stop feeling, I stop functioning through the body? Again, no. It's that you're giving up the reality of perceiving, feeling, and thoughts, and that the three bodies don't have an independent reality. So that correct understanding and evaluation is what sits in, and now you start to abide in your own true nature. You stop abiding by the false identification with the BMI. And what is that true nature that you are now expressing? Sat Chit Ananda. So when he contemplates on it, he awakens to it. So that's a very key aspect, both in 49 and 50 that we're talking about, that the more you contemplate on it as if it was an external entity, you start to become it. Now, again, you have to be careful about the usage of words. And so in order to understand this, the example of bhramarakīṭavat is given. So if we just look at the analogy first, we have the little worm that's in a cocoon of a mud with a little tiny opening, and all that the worm can see is a bright light and the monstrous face of this mother wasp looking at it, right? So this is all the view that this worm has. 2-3 days, being cocooned in that, constantly staring at that wasp. What happens? In 2 to 3 days, the worm comes out and in itself becomes the wasp with full-fledged wings that can fly on its own. Nobody needs to teach it. So this analogy is similarly the individual that is made up of this mud of BMI that has one singular window of contemplation. And again, as a reminder, this is verse 34, 35, 36. Those are our meditative verses. They were constantly contemplating on it. The worm becomes what it is contemplating on. The jiva becomes what it is contemplating on, which is that reality of Sat Chit Ananda. Now, some of us may object, especially the biologist in me is like, excuse me, the worm doesn't become a wasp, right? It's not the same species. Like, you got your zoology mixed up. I said, no, the Shastras know more about zoology than you claim to know. Just listen. The point is of this analogy is the aspect of metamorphosis. So Gurudev extends the analogy just a little bit more, saying, observe the caterpillar that turns into the butterfly. So the caterpillar, again, is that little tiny jiva that has this ability to consume enormous amounts of food. In fact, it can eat about 10 times its weight. If you scale it up to a human being, let's say you're a nice 100 pounds, 10 times is what your capacity is to eat. 1,000 pounds of food, right? That's its capacity. So no one can win, the capacity of a caterpillar eating. So anyhow, that caterpillar naturally does consume anything and everything, but then it becomes quiet, goes into the cocoon and metamorphosizes into that butterfly. Once it comes to that butterfly state, it no longer has that appetite for all the trees, the leaves, the twigs, the fruits. It naturally gives it up. All it needs is just the dewdrops of honey and maybe a few pollens. So this is the analogy that the ego, which is like the caterpillar that binges on the OETs with the BMI, it can consume quite a lot. But once you go through that metamorphosis, you come to realize your true state that you already were, and you're able to not have any cravings anymore for the gross objects. You're reveling in what you already are and expressing yourself as Brahman at that point. So here, that you become what you contemplate on only is valid because you already are what you're contemplating on. You're not changing into something else, you already are that. So now in verse 50, this is a very unique verse, and this definitely caught my attention. Gurudev says that there are two parallel thoughts being described at the same time with this verse. One gives the idea of that nature of that master who's established in that Sat Chit Ananda, and at the same time gives the deeper meaning of Ramayana. So the Puranas demonstrate the subtle ideas of the philosophies given in the Upanishads. So let's dig into that. Rama is the son of Dashrath Maharaj Ji. Right? So Dashrath Maharaj Ji represents the one who has controlled his 10 organs, 5 organs of perception, 5 organs of action. And Ramji is born in Ayodhya. Ayodhya means a place where there is no conflict. So that represents the mind. So one who has control over the 10 senses and has no conflict in the mind, only in such a state is Ramji born, the supreme nature comes out. Now, if Ramji remained in Ayodhya, he can't serve the world, and therefore he must meet Sita Ji and get wedded. This is analogous to the Om reality being wedded to the matter Prakriti, and Gurudev has a really funny phrase for this. Married Ramji becomes Mr. You. So it represents that Purusha and Prakriti getting wedded together to produce the entity of the Jiva. So once this has happened, you cannot remain in Ayodhya. the jiva cannot remain in a non-conflict state and enters the jungles of samsara. And it is in this samsara that you encounter the 10-headed monster. Ravana represents the antithesis for Dashaji Maharaj. Dashaji has control over his 10 senses, but Ravana is subject and influenced by his 10 senses. He is abound with all the, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, matsarya, all of it, right? And this represents us as the jiva. So the entire Ramayana, when Sita ji goes from Ayodhya to Lanka, represents the downfall of a jiva from its supreme state. Then from Lanka back to Ayodhya is the spiritual path. So the master who has reached this state is now establishing Ramarajya, the spiritual culture. So now let's look at the verse that's given in verse 50. Tīrtvā mohārṇavaṃ. So one who has crossed the ocean of delusion. Again, it reminds me of all of Sundarkand, right? When Hanumanji crosses the ocean of samsara. Hatvā rāgadveṣādirākṣasān. Having killed all of the rakshasas, which means all the pulses of feelings and that come up in the mind, having conquered all of those rakshasas, and again, it's listed as raga, dvesha, ati. Then the yogi becomes śāntisamāyukta. Then finally, that yogi who is established in Ram Raja regains that peace. And there's that restfulness from all of that lustfulness, greed, desires, passions, all of that becomes shanti. And it is only then that ātmārāmo virājate. That it is in this state that we can revel in that ātmārāmo. So I thought this was a very beautiful analogy, and verse 50 has now kind of become one of my favorites because of this. So that's all I have, Swamiji.
There you go. Good to see everybody. So no Prakarana Grantha is complete without a description of a Jīvanmukta. Because we can see Siddhantas, understand the logic behind them, and cram in definitions of what each word means. All of that is all good. But unless we see the application and that this liberation, freedom from bondage that Shastra promises me if I take the right path, all of that is only understood when I understand Jīvanmukta Lakshana. Because even when we look at Srimad Bhagavad Gita, right in the second chapter, 54th shloka, there Arjuna already asks, Sthita Pragnasya ka bhasha, that all these things you're telling me of, I can be liberated this way, getting over any kind of ordeal that I have, not being connected to this body that I think I am. You're telling me all of this, but give me proof. Who is this person? How does he live? Is that even possible? He bursts out with that question there. So at this point now, after all the siddhantas are given, what is the nature of this Atma? What is that ātmabodha aikya that we're talking about? After all of that concludes, we come now to a string of shlokas where Jīvanmukta Lakshana is discussed. Now, the first shloka that we have here, Jīvanmuktaha, the liberated one. And that's qualified with tadvidvān, he who is endowed with self-knowledge. And again, this self-knowledge, just by that very word of vidvan, this knowledge cannot be ascertained anywhere else but the Shastra. Which means there is no Jīvanmukta who wakes up one day and is just realized on the spot. The touch of a guru cannot do that. Going to some holy place cannot do that. It is only through this process of Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam that we've spoken of before, going through this entire process with full faith, understanding what that true nature is, eradicating any vestige of any kind of viparita bhavana, erroneous notions that exist. Once all of that has been done, that is when we can say that person is a vidvan, then, reveling in that self-knowledge. And qualifying it even more, what does that mean that they've lost? Pūrvopādhiguṇāṃstyajet, gives up those upadhis. That everything else I'm holding on to, saying that this is my identity. And it's not that someone has told me it's my identity. For janmas and janmas, I've held on to that. Therefore, getting rid of those upadhis, getting rid of that connection I have to them, thinking that they're real, thinking that they're me, that takes a great pratna, huge effort to get over that, constant repetition to myself that I am not these things. Then the reason is given here now, the hetu. Saccidānandarūpatvāt. Sat, Chit, Ananda. And we saw this briefly in the text that we saw 2 texts ago in ātmabodha. That's given. What is my swarupa? Sat, Chit, Ananda. But here we understand, how does the Jivanmukta see it then? What is the logic behind why I can be these 3 things and nothing but this? Why are these qualifiers there? Sat, first of all, existence. In our Shastra, existence is defined as that which does not change from its nature. Only then is it existence. Like this human body, for example, it grows over time. It's like a parabola. We start out kind of weak and dependent. At a certain point, we hit our pinnacle where we're independent. The body is firm and strong at the height of our action. And then near the end of life again, it starts to wane. That's how this human body is. There's no way around that. Like that, then, if an entity has to go through certain changes like that, that cannot be existent. That cannot be existent because it's not always there. It's not always in that same nature. It has an expiration date to it, has a birth date to it as well, cannot be existence. Therefore, I must be something beyond that. Sat is what I have to be. Not that I'm in this existence, I'm existence itself. Then comes Chit. Because after understanding that I'm Sat, I could see that, okay, this Brahman is that material cause for everything that comes up. If we look at in the world, any material cause that is there is subject to destruction, isn't it? There is no material cause that exists that is permanently there. If I come up with that objection, then no, I'm Chit. I am not insentient. I am that very consciousness, that very nature of knowledge. Not that I'm an agent of knowing, I'm that very knowledge. And then that last part, Ananda, that I am infinite then, Ananta, where I'm not separate from anything else. Because if I were to be an agent of knowledge, then there's something I am and there's something I have to know. Here, that which is to be known is me, myself, that true nature, that which is unlimited, has no finitude on it. Therefore, that is Ananda, unmitigated bliss, brought down by nothing else. So Satchitananda, very short words, very brief definitions to him as well, but the implication is so deep. And it's not just that the Jivanmukta knows what Satchitananda is, he is verily that Sat, that Chit, that Ananda, that Swarupa, that's the reason given here. And then the example given of the one who bhavet becomes Brahman is what is given, even in the English translation here, like a wasp. Now, becoming Brahman sounds like an oxymoron here. We're saying that we are changeless. It's not that I go from being a jiva to being Brahman. It's only that with the shedding of this ignorance, I understand what my true nature was this whole time. And that's what's called, quote, becoming Brahman. And the example given here seems like it's something that's going through a change and a transformation. So it's really easy to fall into the trap of thinking that I'm transforming as well into something that's called Brahman. That if you look at the life of a worm, that's what becomes the wasp here. It's a very sad existence. Many animals in the animal kingdom, they have some kind of mechanism that stops it from getting attacked by predators, doesn't it? Where a starfish can drop an arm and go away. Chameleons can change color. The poor worm has no such mechanism. The most it can do is try to inch away as fast as it can, but a bird flying will come and catch it. And then now summertime, you walk out, you take a walk in the morning, you'll see so many baked worms on the sidewalk, right? They come out thinking, oh, it's a nice, pleasant day, and then the Texas sun completely bakes them. So like that, that's a very limited existence. And then to become that wasp, then, they're enveloped in a cocoon for a certain period of time. There's no movement. There's no bliss in that kind of a state. But at long last, after that transformation occurs, they sprout wings, and that entity is no longer bound by any kind of space. It can fly away from any predator that's there, fly away from instances. So looking at it that way, it's not that it's a transformation that I undergo, when I realize what my true nature is, those shackles that have bound me this whole time, making me think that I am this finite being that is subject to the world tossing me this way and that way, that very wrong notion is gone. And so to speak, I gained those wings of understanding where I understand that this ignorance that was plaguing me this whole time, this is not who I am. I am something far greater. Will the upadhis persist physically? Yes. I will still have a mind that oscillates. I will still have physical problems. But the understanding that this is not what my identity is, this is not what keeps me bound, that is the understanding of that jīvanmukta, which is why they experience that unmitigated bliss. Now, looking at the next shloka then, a common motif that's given in our Vedantic Shastras is tīrtvā mohārṇavaṃ, that delusion is seen as an ocean. When you're in the ocean on a big cruise liner, the bigger the ship, the less you feel all the waves. But if you go on a little sailboat in the middle of the ocean, especially during a storm, you get tossed this way, that way. There's no question of eating anything because nothing will digest when you're in that kind of a situation. They say that moha is like that. And the only way to cross it then is to grab onto something firm, grab onto something sturdy, be deeply rooted in it, and that's the way I get across. Shastra and Guru is what that is then. Jīvanmukta has firmly understood that. Now, what's that method? It's given in two ways. And the subject of this is the yogi, by the way. So, rāgadveṣādirākṣasān. And what do I do to that rakshasa? That they are killed. Hatvā. Where if we look at the origin of where all my problems arise, because a common statement made by many is that Vedanta is quite esoteric, very complicated to understand, and not at all practical. I've read things that many people say this. But if you look at our purvacharyas, especially Bhagavan Shri Adi śaṅkarācarya ji, the root of the problem is what he goes to and attacks it from there. Because if we see ourselves as experiencers of what happens in the world, we're bhogis. That bhoga is what we experience. We experience that because of some punya or papa that comes our way. Why? Why does that punya or papa come? Because I've done something that's in line with dharma or adharma, therefore I get punya and papa. Something for it to be in dharma or adharma has to be some karma that I do. The karma that I do has to come because of some ichcha, some desire that I have. That's why I do the karma in the first place. That ichcha is born of raga and dvesha, my likes and dislikes. So going all the way from me cribbing about what I experience, the Acharya here takes us back all the way, retracing our steps to rāgadveṣa, and he says that's what you have to cut down. So what a beautiful way of understanding here. That the jīvanmukta understands that these likes and dislikes is what I have to sand down. Then again, the subject is yogi and śāntisamāyukta, that he or she is in union with peace. And how does that shanti come about? It's not that they've fulfilled all their desires, because commonly what the world will tell us is when you fulfill all your desires, that's when you're at peace. Don't worry if you're not happy right now. There is something you want. Go for it, attain that thing, and you'll be happy. That's the whole industry of advertising is built on that premise then. You're not happy right now. If you say, no, I am happy. No, you're not. You don't have this thing. You're not happy. Go for this thing, then you'll be happy. But it's the opposite here. That samayukta with shanti comes about for the jīvanmukta because there is no desire. That's the reason why he's at peace. There's no desire to act anymore. And the really deceptive thing here is so-called being on the spiritual path can still be riddled with desire. I was speaking to someone the other day. This person is 75 plus, between 75 and 80. I was like, okay, what are you up to now? I haven't seen you in a few years. How's it going? He said, yeah, I had my business for a while. I'm thinking about selling this business now and going towards more adhyatmic things. I said, oh, good for you. That's wonderful. And then he proceeded to say, yes, I want to learn Sanskrit and I want to write a book. I want to do this. I want to start this foundation. I want to do that for this, all like that. So is the path spiritual? Sure. But is there desire involved to do all these things for some kind of personal gain? That's also there. So I can't get confused there and take the path to be, oh, I'm going to be peaceful here when desire still persists. That's a viveka that's required. And then ātmārāmo virājate, the one who shines within himself, because the one who revels within himself and he shines. Reveling within myself does not occur when I'm happy again with fulfilling everything I wanted to. Understanding that the one who desires all of these things, I am not that person, that is when I can revel within the self. So sound bites is what it sounds like if I don't do vichara for this. And going through ātmabodha the first time, that's how it felt. That, okay, these are words that I've heard, buzzwords, look within. These are things you see on Instagram. Why is it coming up here again? But thank God we have so many shastras that explain these texts so in depth that with looking within yourself, what does that mean exactly? That's given without any ambiguity, that it really means knowing what I truly am, letting go of all that desire. Only then can I revel in myself, not needing anything external to make me happy, and in fact, changing the definition of what I think happiness even is. So that's all I have for these two verses, Shwami.
Thank you both. Very beautiful and interesting two shlokas that we have for today. It's almost like looking at what do we have on the menu. Pretty good two shlokas. Jīvanmukta Purusha, Jīvanmukta Lakshana is often quoted in every Prakarana Grantha, and it is like an ideal that one should have in their understanding to walk up to turn into that ideal. So that is the Jīvanmukta Lakshana. In the last few shlokas, the idea that has been given is to remove all kinds of ambiguity, because on one side I see this physical world, tangible, experienced, that my smartness is to know everything about this world that I interact with and to be able to execute flawlessly. That is what is accomplishment, smartness, everything that is related to. For somebody that has put an effort all life long in that particular field, to tell them all of this is not something that is going to provide that which you are seeking. There'll be a lot of resistance to it. There'll be a lot of challenge thrown by the student. What if? There are a lot of what ifs. After having done jumping through the hoops, understanding, crossing across our own doubts, there is this firmness of understanding. Viveka is born. Now with that Viveka, this Jīvanmukta Purva Upadhi Gunan Tyajet. There are upadhis, limitations. What are these limitations? Sthula, Sukshma, Karana, Sharira limitations. Actually, very beautifully worded here. It is not just the upadhi, it is the upadhi guna. The attributes of this upadhi is what is binding me. And these attributes, that which I am identified with. Attributes can be dropped. Upadhi as such cannot be dropped. So the understanding that has to be generated as I speak, as I hear, as I contemplate upon, like the Upanishad guides us, that first you have to shravanam, then mananam kurya, then nididhyasitavyam. Shrotavyam, mantavyam, nididhyasitavyam. Now for that Shravana to become a very strong manana, what is the criteria? Am I in that path? Am I understanding it? And I don't need to go out to test. I don't need to go out to ask someone, am I growing in the right direction? See, in India, when in doubt, you don't need a GPS system. It is a futile thing. You just roll down your window and ask, Bhaiya, I'm trying to go to this direction. Am I on the path? You ask for one, there'll be 5 people that will congregate and give you directions. In this path, you don't need that validation. There is this self-awarefulness in knowing first. This upadhi, the identification and the manipulated modifications that I am entrapped in, how easily, how quickly can I distance myself as they are happening? This Atmajnana and the Satsanga is not going to evaporate our life situations and experiences. That will be there. We'll have to deal with the same husband, same wife, same children, same house, same furniture, same neighbors, same in-laws, same everything. Cannot avoid it. When these motions happen, when these movements happen, how quickly can I disassociate myself? Sarva purva upadhi gunan tyajet. Without having put that viveka in distancing and maintaining that quietude, focus, balance, and the depth that is required in the antakarana, meditation is not possible. You may jump from one guru to the other in searching for meditation techniques, one app of meditation to the other, but it will be futile. In Telugu, there is a saying, Budidelo posena panneer. Panneer means like something which has a lot of fragrance to it. Like the effervescence or the oil essence or the fragrance deodorant or whatever. It's very costly. If you pour that in the Purnahuti, in the Yajna Kunda, in the last step, it acquires a lot of punya. But everything is done, but I insist on pouring it because I love pouring. The whole Yajna Kunda is done, it has become Shanta, there is only ash left. Will I get punya by pouring this fragrance for the oil essences into it? Will I get the punya? No, you will not. It's a waste, futile effort. That is how it will be. So what is the step? The step is, how much have I the balance that as these emotions, as these different experiences unleash these, trigger these emotions in me, how quickly can I balance myself and guide those moments? Unless I master it, these kinds of experiences will keep happening. And there is no point trying to cry saying, why does this happen to me always only? Why me? There is no point. See, the point is, I have closed my eyes. Ajnana timira andhakara. Why is the table or the bed or the side table or the stairs hitting into my shin? What wrong have I done to them? Stop being, melodramatic. It is just that because you are Ajnana, Timira, Andhakara, that has to be removed. That is when you can walk safe. So it seems as though that the whole world is conspiring against us to give me that same kind of experience. It's because of my own limitation. Those limitations this individual has with Viveka crossed, meaning disidentified. And for this disidentification step, there is a lot of upasana bala, there is a lot of japa, tapa, discipline that this individual has invoked. And he has reached to that pivotal point where the subtlest of samshaya and viparyaya also has been handled or managed. How is the samshaya removed? Samshaya is removed because of through the manana process. What we are discussing is the manana process. And to extend this further is called the manana process. Identifying specific patterns of triggers that I keep, repeating myself in. Identifying them and finding the right substitute to unmask, peel away that layer, that happens in nididhyasana. That is the meditation. The purpose of meditation is that. Again, I repeat, purpose of meditation is not to bring realization. That happens in the very first step. The moment there is that shravana and the understanding that happens, takshana, immediately there is that moksha has already happened. Now to abide in it, there are still these hoops that have to be done. This person has crossed those. Saccidānandarūpatvāt bhavet. Bhavet prapnoti. That which is already my true nature, I abide in it. So I had specifically chosen this particular saying. Just spend a minute with it. So the idea that is given is everything has to be fine-tuned to turn towards that Parabrahma, Paramatma, which is my true nature, and abide in it. This process, the Upanishads say, Brahmarakīṭa Nyaya. When it cocoons itself, it is a Kita. Kita, ugly looking worm. Fattened, ugly looking worm. Scary, scared, not scary and scared, probably both. It is also scared with the world. So it cocoons itself. Then comes the day where the shell breaks and out comes this beautifully independent being. Similarly, whether we are in brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasa, brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, shudra, stri, manushya, pums, whatever format, wherever intersection we are in. Sanyasya bahya lokan, that solitude has to be there. One has to step away from this. In that cocooning is where the transformation happens. As a result of that, there is that quietude, and in that quietude, there is that highest probability to abide in my own true nature that this person has. Therefore is called, there's a new term used here, jīvanmukta. Jivan eva muktaha. Jīvanmukta doesn't mean that somebody who is dead and done. Jivan is still alive. But if he's still alive, then how are they transpiring and transacting with this world? See, there are different kinds of Brahma that can be taken as an example. If we keep sticking to the snake and the rope, we will come to that point wherein if I have seen the rope, there is no possibility for the snake to exist. But here, having understood that Paramatma Chaitanya, the world still persists. Then the other example that was given is, I see the blue sky or the sun, that there is a sunrise and a sunset. The blue sky, when we understand that there is no blueness to it, it is nirguna, colorless. But because of the light spectrum it consumes, that which it doesn't is left behind, so the blue color is apparent. Though I understand this, but transactionally, vyavaharita, what do I say? The sky is blue. Nila asma, right? Poetry sing also. Neele neele ambar par. So many songs. But inside I know very clearly that it is not blue. So whether it is vyavaharika satta or pratibhasika satta, it is mithya. I know it. And yet, my transactional level, it continues because of the prarabdha of this sharira mana buddhi that will continue. I've heard Gurudev say, prarabdha of the sishyas, that the Guru still hangs in there. Now this, how do we reach? Again, step by step given. tīrtvā mohārṇavaṃ hatvā rāgadveṣādirākṣasān yogī śāntisamāyukta ātmārāmo virājate. The commentary that is given by Padmapadacharya ji on this, that is where he compares it with Ramayana. So he says, Paramatma, we are by nature. But wrongly identified, we behave as though we are Jivatma. Where did that happen? When Ramji runs after that Maya Mruga, Maricha. So that is when that Jivatva apaditam. As soon as we run, our Swami Akhandanandji says it beautifully. He says, what is this Jagat? जो जग 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 धमके ना, वो जगत है। जो चमकता है ना, वो जगत है। So here also this golden deer was jug 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 chumking. So Bhagavan ran after it. So when do we become a jiva? When we give validity to this samsara and run after it. Some run for it, some run away from it. But run wherever it happens, it is jivatva. As soon as we run away, what happens? The shanti is stolen away. It is abducted. Isn't it? Why am I this restless? Why am I not having this peace? Why I feel broken in these pieces? Why? Because I'm running after wrong things. And dashanana, dashagriva dashanana, 10 organs of perception, constantly finding indulgences. Through that, we are entrapped and our peace is abducted. Mohārṇavaṃ tīrtvā. Then this setu is built and you cross over to find your shanti. Who helps connect this bridge? Hanumanji. Therefore, Hanumanji becomes the guru who takes the jiva to their own atma shanti. And in doing so, hatvā rāgadveṣādirākṣasān. So many rakshasas have to be dealt with. And where are they? Right here. All these rakshasas are right here. Rakshasa doesn't mean that there is somebody who has a bad hair day and big eyebrows and ha 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 ha. Who is that ha 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 ha? This is my own ego. Rāgadveṣādirākṣasān hatvā. Having cut asunder all these layers, layer by layer, peeled. I cannot run away from it. Each one has to be dealt meticulously and uprooted from its very core. Wherever it is hiding, I have to remove it out. Hatvā rāgadveṣādirākṣasān. Then yogī śāntisamāyukta. Then that shanti is reunited. Such a shanta purusha can revel in their own true nature. ātmārāmo virājate. With this understanding, now when you sing ātmārāma ānandaramana saccidānanda satyanarayana, it is that Sacchidananda as my true nature. In that Ananda virājate, revels forth in. That is the swatmanubhava, swatmārāmo. So what is the sadhana? Viveka vairagya, shamadamadi shat sampatti. Work through the layers of upadhis. Neti, neti, neti. But it has to be dridha. It has to be a very clear understanding. I am not this body, manja I am not this body. Not looking at it to pamper the body even a little bit. The field of sukshma sharira, hunger, thirst, emotions, feelings. Then the dhridatara nischayatmika, having viveka applied at all these levels. Then sitting down for shravana, then manana, removing the samshaya, nididhyasana, removing the viparyaya. Now for us to be able to sit and do all this, buddhi should be available, right? Dhiyo yonah prachodayat. Therefore, the mantra, japa, puja, sadhana, so that there is that stability that when I hear, that which is said is understood without any doubt. Then we sit, there will be a lot of peeling. Layer by layer, identify, remove, and uproot them mercilessly. Then such one finds that shanti, because ashantaha kutaha sukham. As long as there is ashanti, there cannot be sukha. Only if there is shanti, there can be sukha. Such one is called ātmārāmo. Atmani ramate yaha saha. So with that, we'll conclude, hoping, praying that our efforts lead us to our own Atma Chaitanya, where we can revel in. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate